to Talking Supply Chain. In each episode, top supply chain industry professionals and the nation's top thought leaders join host Brian Strait and share their unique insights to help supply chain managers stay one step ahead of their competition. This is Talking Supply Chain. Welcome to another episode of Talking Supply Chain. I'm your host, Brian Strait, and I'm glad you're with us today. Today, we're going to be talking about something that has come up a lot lately as reshoring and domestic manufacturing has been at the forefront of conversations. And that is something we might call hardware sovereignty. It's the notion that where we build our hardware, the robotics, the sensors, the machines that are powering modern logistics systems, matters just as much as how we use them. In an age when so many of our automation systems are designed in the US but manufactured halfway around the world, one company is challenging that model. Corvus Robotics, winner of this year's Next Gen Supply Chain Solution Provider Award for Robotics, is using technology built here in America and redefining what domestic robotics manufacturing can mean for supply chain resilience and performance. Joining me today to talk about that is Jackie Wu, founder and CEO of Corvus. His company has developed an autonomous drone system that tracks warehouse inventory with precision and speed, giving its customers real-time visibility into one of their toughest challenges, what's actually on the shelves. Jackie, welcome to Talking Supply Chain and congratulations on your Next Gen Award.
Thanks so much, Brian. Really glad to be
Thank you.
here.
I gave a quick look at what Corvus Robotics does, but maybe if you could kick off the conversation with a little more deeper dive as to who Corvus is, what pain point did you set out to solve when you created the company, and kind of what's the story of Corvus?
Yeah, we build autonomous inventory management systems, including drones that help warehouses scan inventory. People don't think much about the physical supply chain until it's cast into the spotlight, but everything around you, the food that you eat, the roof over our heads, the shirts on our backs, all sat in warehouses at some point, and they all have to track inventory. Really, everything in a warehouse flows downstream of inventory accuracy from where they put away, where they pick from, where they replenish. All that depends on knowing what is where. And so we're on this very exciting cusp of this AI and robotics revolution where we are able to use the cutting edge technology that we've spent the past 10 years doing research and development in to be able to help all sorts of large companies in many different verticals, manufacturers, retailers, and distributors to help track their inventory.
Yep. We're going to get into a little bit more later on in the podcast about what you guys are doing. But I want to kick off the conversation really with the bigger picture, and that is kind of the way I framed it in the beginning, which is domestic manufacturing. So much of robotics manufacturing is done overseas over the last couple decades. Why do you believe that building domestically matters now, especially?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the core beliefs that drives us is that the physical economy is of utmost importance. The other industries, finance, healthcare services, those are all very important. But for every country, I mean, from big countries to small countries, the most far-flung island nations to the smallest microstates, right? Everybody needs like physical things.
Yep.
And we and something that's important is to be able to make some of your own things so that you are not completely reliant on other folks.
Yep.
Now, one of the views that I have is sort of looking at the economic competitiveness of how you manufacture, right? There is sort of a value chain that countries go up on as they develop and become richer. So in the US, we typically don't do, too much, mass manufactured low-end textile manufacturing, right? We're not making like, Timu shirts or whatever, right? It's
Yep.
just not cost competitive to do so. But then you look at the, inputs like capital, if it's something that's very technologically advanced, hard to manufacture, requires high upfront sort of costs compared to, sort of maybe less developed countries and sort of the labor pool, cheap labor pool that is available to them. It's very different. And so you kind of have to look at the economic structure of a country when you think about how to manufacture. And that's kind of the sweet spot that we are manufacturing in. High-end robotics, where we have a competitive advantage, there is a true differentiator, and it's not a, consumer mass-produced type of good.
Yeah. So I think when we think about domestic manufacturing, as you mentioned textiles, right? I mean, we're not making the shirt on your back here in
Yeah.
this country,
Yeah.
typically. Sneakers are another thing. I think when we talk about, and a lot of the conversation around domestic manufacturing, centers around semiconductors or EV parts, things like that.
Mhm.
But you're saying that that's kind of that same, value applies to robotics hardware as well, then?
Yeah, I think, I can only speak to our industry, right? My industry of robotics and industrial hardware. I mean, there's a few companies that are manufacturing. They've basically vertically integrated a lot of their complex manufacturing here in the US. And we really look up to them. And I've visited some, they've been nice enough to let me visit some of their factories. It's very interesting. It is this fully integrated vertically integrated stack where they have manufacturing cells and it's just a machine that is churning out more machines. So that's kind of the vision for us, kind of in our we automate, but we're also in our own automation journey as well, to kind of manufacture with our competitive advantages with high technological inputs.
Yeah. So the things where machines can do some of the work, automation, not they're not labor intensive products that are pieces
That's
and
right. Yeah,
things.
that's right.
So there are certainly a lot of companies that still import robotic systems or components into this country,
Yeah.
certainly out there. So from your perspective, I mean, you guys are choosing basically not to do that. So what kind of risks are presented if you do decide that you're going to import these components of these systems? Is there additional risk that you take on as a company when you import?
Yeah, I think every one of the every one of the robotics companies in the warehouse inventory robotics space, and certainly many of the other AMR AGV companies manufacture overseas and import them here. And I think the risk there, of course, is the same that we've seen for the past few months, right? There may be unpredictable trade policies and tariffs and sort of geopolitical issues that cause uncertainty or doubles or triples the price unexpectedly, right?
Yeah,
And fortunately, that's not something that we directly have to face because we manufacture here. But there always is sort of that, unpredictability of the political events affecting the global supply chain that we must intelligently manage.
yeah. So I want to go back, in the beginning here when you made this decision to do the work here in the US. I think it's easy, especially young companies, startup companies, to go where the cheapest option is, right? And because you try to preserve cash, use it for other things. So can you kind of walk us through what led you guys to the decision to say, hey, we want to be here in the US, we want to build in the US?
I think some of it is actually so surprisingly. Overseas in East Asia, the manufacturing and value chain is actually so developed in advance, it's really hard to imagine by comparison over here. And one should see for oneself. One should be able to think for oneself. I believe that strongly. One should see it for their, see with your own eyes. But a lot of the manufacturing and value chain is very advanced. And it's not only cheaper, it's actually better. Like quality is better. And so that really leads us to think, I mean, when we're getting quotes for, to CNC some piece, whether it's from somewhere local, here in the US or somewhere overseas, and we have some kind of complexity, it is, we are comparing quotes, timelines, service, cost, and it really is no comparison. It's like, 5x off here, 3x off there, 10x off there, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And so it's tempting to kind of look at that. But there's just so many things that are out of your control, to your point, as a startup, because we're moving very quickly and there's things that we're learning in the field about the customers. I mean, even now, our robots are deployed in the vast majority of the states, of the United States. But there will be new things that we will uncover and develop, and we're like, that's an interesting idea. We should implement that for the next revision. right? Or sometimes even a warehouse associate will come up and say, hey, like it would be great if we could do this thing. And we're like, yeah, that's actually that makes, a really good point. We should look at that. And so to be able to do a lot of this in-house to quickly iterate and have that iteration speed and cycle, I believe is part of the reason why we win. Which is, if you kind of just outsource everything to an ODM, like a manufacturer somewhere else and their own hardware team, you don't have much control over them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing in your answer proximity. It's proximity to the designers, to the manufacturers, to building the product. Speed being an issue here. Working closer with suppliers. So is that those are some of the advantages I assume. Are there other advantages you have by being local? Is design a, I mean, I think you kind of hinted at this a little bit that things change, right? And you learn things from your customers and needs and wants and things. So are those types of things, is that stuff easier to do when you're dealing locally meaning domestically, with suppliers instead of trying to deal with a supplier in another country?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all had the late nights, 9 p.m. is morning in another time zone and getting up to talk to so I mean, it obviously is much easier if somebody is domestic just from a sleep perspective, but just being able to talk the same language, the same culture, all of that makes things a lot easier. So
Yeah.
there is an added benefit there. It's if it was apples to apples, a ceteris paribus comparison, I think that really is, there's no question that we would love to work with somebody local. But do we have the manufacturing? Do we have the value chain near us to be able to? It's not about just cheap labor anymore. It's about really the expertise, the depth of the manufacturing knowledge and the network. Do we have that here for all of our components? The answer is a hard no. It is very clearly no. And so you have to be pragmatic when you're actually building a product. That's just how it
Yeah.
is.
So I just want to ask you one more question on this, and then we'll get into some of your actual technology and what you guys are doing. And that is, your culture of innovation. Um, Building
Mhm.
domestically, you kind of touched on this, like building domestically, does that shape the culture of innovation? Does it improve the innovation that you guys are able to do, the way that maybe your engineers are able to think? Maybe there's more back and forth with customers or what have you. How does that being local, if you will, shape that culture of innovation that you guys have at Corvus?
Yeah, I think that's key. We are based here in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm not a California native. I did not grow up here. I'm not used to the homeless RVs outside. But I grew up in Texas, and my co-founder and I were up in Boston when he was still in school. We moved out here to California a couple of years ago, and I think there really is some magic in the air over here, whether you're building software or hardware AI, right? I think I think people work hard regardless of where they are. But I do believe that people work more effectively somehow somewhere here in Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
at least for startups and innovation, right? This is something in the air, something in the water, Brian. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I think, of course, our hardware team being literally down the hall from manufacturing, it's very easy to just walk over and talk about this particular build or that assembly or this sub-assembly. That just makes it so much easier. And just being able to hear from our sales team in the same time zone, what is going on. All of that makes it
Yeah.
much easier. And then you kind of we're blessed in that, some of the friends that I've bumped into in the area are just amazing in building, even, later stage successful AI hardware companies. And you could just, kind of talk to them and share thoughts back and forth. And, that's kind of a network that allows for serendipity and fortune that I have not seen replicated anywhere else in the world.
The coffee shops in Silicon Valley are fabulous, right? Like you get into those coffee shops with all the different people from the different companies, and you just hear conversations and just the things that go on. when you connect with people out there. There's just so much innovation that takes place in that area.
For real. I
So
think these
yeah.
days it's like boba shops, which is not good for my teeth, but great for my wrist. But yeah, it's Silicon Valley
Um,
is for
want
me.
to want to shift to your actual technology and talk about the technology and what you guys are actually doing out
Yeah.
there. So why don't we start with for those unfamiliar, can you talk about what the Corvus system actually does in a warehouse environment? What does it actually accomplish for a
Yeah, so
customer?
our first product line is Corvus One. It's the world's first fully autonomous drones. So these are self-flying robots that shoot lasers to count your inventory, okay? They don't need people to fly them or to follow them around. They don't need, you don't have to put up tens of thousands of stickers or hundreds of beacons on your ceilings or anything like that. So these are small, lightweight aerial robots that help track inventory. And so if you think about, I don't know how much familiarity folks have with cycle counting in a warehouse, right? But the way that inventory has been tracked for the past couple thousand years is a person walking around with a barcode scanner and a, printed out or hand scribbled task list trying to match inventory, right? It's a very slow process. That person only covers 1% of the warehouse a day. I mean, these are massive warehouses, right? The size of 5 football fields going up 4 stories high, right? And if you think about AI and robotics, like sometime in the future, this is not going to be the way that, people are not always going to be using handheld barcode scanners and tablets to check inventory. Sometime in the future, there's going to be a robotic and computer vision and AI solution, right? And that day is now. So we have this core autonomy physical AI stack that we've spent about a decade building and refining specifically for warehouses and factories. We went in with a very specific use case for a specific type of customer to solve this problem. So it's not a sort of a generic kind of off the shelf SLAM model. It's something that we've built with warehouses in mind. So that's the first product line. These drones, they set up quite quickly, in about 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks, depending on the size of the facility. And then we're able to fly and figure out what SKU is where quite quickly. So that's kind of the first product line. There's a few other things coming down the pipe, but that's what customers know us for, what they trust, and what their independent auditors verify against is that drone data that supplements the team of people, the team of cycle counters doing this by doing it 10 times, 20 times faster.
Yeah, and I guess if you think about it, right? I mean, if you've got a 100,000 square foot warehouse or a 500,000 square foot warehouse, and it takes you 30 days to truly map everything that's in it and count everything in it, in this day and age where everything moves so quickly, especially like e-commerce counts and things like that. I mean, you're never going to have an accurate inventory,
Yeah, for real.
if you do that. So if you have a system where you can do that quicker, um, certainly I would think that would improve your accuracy, which and inventory counts that matters for money, right? I mean, companies, if you have inventory that you don't actually have, you're paying taxes on that inventory. And if you
Hmm.
don't actually have it, that costs you money.
Exactly.
So there's there. What type of facilities right now are you seeing the greatest benefit with this system, and what kind of ROI or efficiency improvements are your customers reporting when they install something like this?
I mean, our customers span all different types of industries, right? From, basically pretty much every vertical, I think. Automotive, aerospace, household appliances, medicine, food, grocery, beverage, CPG, consumer facing stuff, industrials, power equipment, manufacturing, and so on. I would say that one use case that's probably not very good is each pick e-commerce. So, you just imagine like a fast growing e-commerce brand, consumer facing, selling something small, and they need to pick like these small things. The drones, I mean, the drones are scanning at the case level or at the pallet level. So when you're talking, if it's a small pair of headphones or some earrings or something like, that's not a good use case, right? So,
Yeah.
but for all these other things that are palletized, they're cartonized, they're spools, they're individual boxes. I mean, We can save you money and do it better. So that's,
Yeah.
that is the
Is,
double whammy of the quick ROI.
is it, I mean, you mentioned little things like that, but you also mentioned automotive. So I just want to ask you specifically about that. Is it something that need, or does it require the items to be in boxes to be able to count it? Or because like a lot of automotive parts may just sit on shelves, right? They
Yeah,
may
you're
not
right.
be in
You're right.
boxes.
Yeah, no, they don't have to sit on boxes. Things should be barcoded. They should have some kind of label, obviously. You're gonna have that yourself for your warehouse, or else how the heck are you scanning it today, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, these are really large warehouses where, organization does matter, and we can help with some of the change management, some of the process improvement, and making sure that, labels are being affixed properly, they're facing outward, they're, so on and so forth. The drones can kind of detect all of that.
Okay. So as you're collecting all this data, which is fabulous, right? You're collecting all this inventory, you know what's here. What's happening with that data? Are you connecting with the warehouse management systems or ERP platforms? And what happens at that point when that connection takes place?
Yeah, so what's interesting is so yes, we do connect with the WMS or the ERP. Pretty much every one of them were partners with some of these largest WMS providers, as well as homegrown, just niche WMSs that some team has built, right? And it's a pretty simple comparison because it's really what is where when. That's kind of what goes between the WMS and our system. Now, in our, we provide this software UI obviously for our customers to kind of quickly analyze that inventory, right? And they get sort of these summaries up front. Um, but I mean, there's a lot of rich data in our platform that's not captured by the WMS, right? So like pictures, videos, high def pictures, all this kind of stuff, all these analytics using computer vision and AI, that's in our platform, and people are able to use that to see if there really is inventory in a particular location, right? Because the drone flew there 20 minutes ago, as opposed to sending somebody on the floor, doing a floor walk for the next 40 minutes, looking at 10 locations to try to find the SKU, right? But what's interesting about the way that we manage this is the realities of internet connectivity in most of the warehouses that we've been. Is that it's not very good, right? Signal attenuation. There's been a few warehouses that have great internet, and I'm like, I don't know how you guys are doing this, but most warehouses have pretty shitty internet, right?
Yeah.
And so what we do is we actually keep all of the customers' data on-prem. Like they have control over it. It's not sent to the cloud unless they want to, right? That's a separate kind of option. And sort of cybersecurity, security risks, it's not a multi-tenant, overseas data provider or whatever. Because our landing pads have these powerful computers with a lot of storage that allows their inventory data to be securely hosted on site. And that's something that a lot of customers like and appreciate, and being able to just quickly access this from on site without worrying about, sort of the IT implications of going to multi-tenant cloud.
Yeah. So if the internet connection, if the wi or the Wi-Fi, I should say, is not great in a warehouse, then your drones are collecting the data and then downloading it basically when they get back to the landing station.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that correct? So
So we
so there's
actually don't require.
a slight delay there for a customer potentially if they don't have the Wi-Fi connectivity.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, because there's timestamps, right? So you
Yeah.
know
Okay.
exactly when something was, and you've got picture proof. But yeah, I mean, we don't need Wi-Fi to fly or to operate. You don't need to kind of pray to the, Wi-Fi deities that connectivity, or else your robot doesn't work. So
Okay. So the drone is flying too without the Wi-Fi.
yes,
Is
exactly.
that
Yeah.
GPS enabled? How's it
No, so GPS
navigate?
doesn't work super well in these facilities because, you got to imagine these are big warehouses, often big metal racks, and just lots of dense material everywhere, right? And it's something where, GPS just is not very accurate, right? Like if I'm walking downtown in a city, my GPS is not accurate because it's bouncing around the skyscrapers or whatever, right? And
Right.
so racks, it's even more so. And so we have very precise location of the drones using our proprietary physical AI stack.
Gotcha.
So you can think of it as sort of a self-driving car that fits on the palm of your hand, and it goes in 3D space, not just 2D,
Okay.
using kind of sensors that look around the environment.
Gotcha. All right. Want to get two more quick questions in before we wrap up. One, I want to go back to the initial theme of this, you know, domestic manufacturing, et cetera. In your mind, in your thoughts, can the U.S. regain leadership in its hardware-based innovation? It's like things like the robotics and sensors and automation, or are we a software country, if you will?
If there's a will, there's a way, man. I'm telling you, if people have a collective will in wanting to do this, wanting to play it straight, wanting to work hard and do the right thing, like why can't Americans do it? We're all just people, right? There's no difference between us and really anybody else, right? So I think if people really have that will, they can.
Hmm.
I think also playing to one's strengths is important. It's, you don't want to enter a competition in which you are destined to lose. You want to look at your advantages. You want to look at, think carefully about where you are strong, what kind of environmental factors can make you succeed here. And then once you're sure of that, then take that approach, right? I mean, that's how we started this company and that's how we're running it and seeing the success that we are today. But it really does require kind of playing to your strengths. Like I said earlier, unless there's some major, some kind of breakthrough that I'm not aware of, America's not going to do much of the low end manufacturing. Like it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make economic sense when when your cost of electricity competes with the price of labor in a developing country, right? That's
Yeah.
just not. So you do have to look at the high value add type of goods and make the investment, make the bold bet, and kind of, work on making that business actually work out.
Yeah.
Um,
Isn't that just like it's almost the perfect similarity to when you build a company, right? Or you run a
mm,
business. It's like,
mm.
do what you excel at what you do, right? But what you don't excel at, understand that and then either become an expert in it or find somebody who is an expert in it,
Yeah,
right? To
absolutely.
work
I
with you.
mean, I fully agree. I mean, I think countries, putting on my amateur armchair geopolitics. I mean, I think countries are a similar way, right? And you do want to, we all hope for world peace and to get along, right? But there is a world in which we partner with folks in
Yeah.
which, we do what we are good at and somebody else does what they are good at. And there's sort of overlap in which we can, kind of build that type of mutual positive win-win type of relationship.
Yeah.
So it's all about that. It's all about finding how you can win and how they can win, and for your weaknesses where they are strong and vice versa.
Yeah. The final question to wrap up. I just want to give you a chance. What's next for Corvus Robotics? What are you guys looking at? Warehouse? How do you see warehouse automation evolving in the next few years? What's next for you guys and going forward?
For us as a company, we're seeing extremely rapid growth, and it is deserved. It's on, the backs of a foundation of 10 years of R&D. And then once we launch the actual product, then people are like, yes, of course, this solves a pain. Yeah, this helps us. There's a few other sort of, in the medium and short term, there's some additional product lines that are very exciting that can also be quite large and solve big problems basically across, inside of the four walls. Longer term, there's some research areas that we're seeing now, just as we saw, almost a decade ago, that will be ripe in a few years. So we're kind of starting to build the foundation for the future as well. But ultimately, we want to be of service. We want to be of help to the world, to the physical supply chain, the people, the companies, the consumers and recipients of that. I think we can make the world a better place by getting people the physical things that they want. So that's what we're working toward.
Great. Well, Jackie, thank you. A great conversation. I think you guys are a good example of how you can build and manufacture domestically as long as you're solving a pain point for somebody, right? I mean, that's the key. It's not just manufacturing domestically, it's solving a pain point for organizations. So
Yeah.
you guys are a good example of that, how you combine those two and finding success doing so. So thank you so much for your insights and sharing a bit of the Corvus Robotics story. If people want to connect with Corvus, maybe they have pain points themselves they want to solve. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you guys?
LinkedIn or our website, corvusrobotics.com. I think regardless of how you misspell that, you'll still land there. Or Corvus.ai, Corvus. we'd love to see if we can help. That's why we exist.
Great. Thank you so much again, Jackie, for joining us.
Thanks for
And
having me, Brian.
congratulations again on your next gen supply chain solution
Thank you.
provider. Appreciate it. We are out of time. I want to thank my guest today, Jackie Wu from Corvus Robotics, and all of you who took time out of your day to listen to us today. We greatly appreciate it. New episodes of Talking Supply Chain come out on Thursdays. You can find them on scmr.com or wherever you get your podcasts. So be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, this is Brian Strait, and you've been listening to Talking Supply Chain. Talking Supply Chain is produced by Supply Chain Management Review and Peerless Media. You can find it on scmr.com, supplychain247.com, iTunes, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. For more information on this topic or to sign up for our weekly newsletter, a print or a digital subscription to our publication, visit scmr.com. We hope you will join us for our next episode. For Supply Chain Management Review, I'm Brian Strait, and thank you for listening.